Yes. Good morning from Amsterdam, from the Netherlands, and
good morning from Vienna, Austria.
beautiful Vienna. And Doris is back. I'm very grateful because Doris is one of my first guests on this live that is aimed to inspire people and help you to elevate your physical, emotional, mental, business life, especially during this period. And thank you so much for coming back, Doris, to share your wisdom and knowledge. And for those of you that don't know yet, Doris is an Austrian life lover. She's a life coach. She's a sought after therapist in Austria. She's also the owner of a fully run organic hotel. She's a senior trainer for Tony Robbins and, of course, much more. And in our first meeting, we talk about the importance of our mental health. Hold on a second. Importance of our mental health. Today, we're going to go deeper. We're going to talk about trauma. We're going to talk about healing of the inner child and the importance of doing so in order to live a full life, a healthy life, if you like. And Doris, we have a tradition here before we start because we're going to co-create a sacred experience together. So we're going to transition into this by centering ourselves, so to prepare for this beautiful experience together. So it's going to be less than a minute, and I'm going to guide it. So let's close our eyes and to occupy a position of strength, whatever it is for everybody. And just connect to the breath. Observing the inflow and the outflow of the breath. And the mantra that I will propose for today, linked to our session. On the out breath, let's just recite in our head, release. So let's do it together 3 times. Wherever you are, breathe out. So breathe in. And on the breathe out, release. Breathe in. And release. One more time. Breathe in. And release. Let's open our eyes. And before we dive into the topic, Doris, tell us something beautiful about Vienna.
Gosh, you need to see the view that I have. I don't know if you see that. This is the beautiful mountains of Vienna and a stream in Vienna. That this is what I get to see every day when I work. And I love Vienna. I love it. Vienna, I think, is the most beautiful city, at least in Europe. I think everybody, Amsterdam is beautiful too, but I think it's beautiful. We have so much history. And I walked around Vienna yesterday with some of my friends who, one of them is not living in Vienna, as tourists. And
Yes.
it just takes my breath away every time. And the food and the wine, I mean, we got it all except
And
the sea,
chocolate.
unfortunately.
And the
And
chocolate.
the chocolate.
Yay, the Mozart and so on. Beautiful. So
I work in an office. And every morning when I went to the office, I saw the opera house. That was the first thing I saw. So can't get
beautiful.
better than that.
Yes, yes. You know, yesterday I was talking to a very nice gentleman, an executive in an in industry in the Netherlands, and he has lost about 50 kilos in the past months. And I asked him,
Wow.
wow, you really look different, and how does this do to you? What happens? I said, yeah, it takes a lot of getting used to this, and I'm working with a psychologist on releasing old trauma from the childhood, and it made me think,
Mhm.
this is something all of us carry on one way or another, trauma. So let's talk about this. Let's talk about trauma, what trauma is, and
Mhm.
why is it important to do something about it in life.
So when you talk about trauma, some people shy away from the word trauma, and we call it trauma, even so you might think, so a trauma is nothing than a pain, like a something that happened and you had a painful experience,
Yes.
which means it doesn't mean you have to be raped or abused, or you grew up in a war zone and had to leave. Some people that have experienced all those very horrific things actually are not traumatized. They might have had a shock, an initial shock, but then they had enough people and certainty around them that they could heal from it.
Yes.
So in order to understand what trauma really does, I would like to go a little bit in the brain function, how memory really works, because that's the
Yes.
problem in trauma.
Yes.
And so to finish the initial thought, a trauma can be as simple as your teacher said, well, you can't sing. And you got like the shock that, oh my gosh, I can't sing. And then you never sing. And then you feel self-conscious later on in life. And you probably never speak out loud in front of people. So it's like
Yeah.
because you created a belief that is everywhere inside of you.
Yes. Yes.
The challenge with trauma or with traumatic experiences, with shock situations. Let's put it in shock, because what happens when you're shocked? The first thing is you want to cry, help, mama. So that's what the first thing you do. But then
Yeah.
there's nobody there most of the time, and then you
Yes.
want to either run away or to actually attack, to fight back.
Yes.
It's very basic. But what you have, because you can't run away, you can't attack, you freeze. And it's not the entire situation or the purpose that is freezing. A part, either the emotion from that situation, or some pictures, are frozen in time. And that's the problem. So when we look back at life situations and we can explain it, and don't feel anything. So for example, I almost 11 years ago, I almost died twice within 8 months. And when I look back at the situation, I can tell you exactly what happened. I know how it went. I can tell you how I felt, because it is stored in my long-term memory. I actually was able to put it in my lifeline.
Yes.
It's stored in my lifeline. It's stored in my long-term memory. So when I go to my therapist, these are not the things I need to talk about because I dealt with it. It is in my long-term memory. The shock situations are the ones that are not transferred in the long-term memory. They are stuck in the amygdala.
Yes.
And the amygdala is the fear center of the brain.
Yes. The emotional brain. Yes.
So the challenge with the amygdala is, opposed to the long-term memory, it doesn't have a timeline.
Yes.
So whenever we experience a similar situation or even something slight that triggers you, you go back to that emotion.
Yes.
And you don't even know it. That's the tricky thing. The the traumatic parts, they live like guerrilla fighters underneath, and they pop up. They can pop up with a trigger or without a trigger. And that's the challenge.
Yes.
So we carry those things around, and most time we don't even know we have them. And so it's hard to deal with them at times, Catalina.
Yes.
So when you look at, yesterday I had one of those experiences where I go, oh my gosh, I just was this little child again. Where somebody, it was a minor thing, but I felt, oh, again, somebody lets me down. And it's not my 53-year-old that is reacting. It takes over, and the 13-year-old goes, but I want this now. Look at me now, being scared and angry and upset.
Yes.
And in this very moment, I'm not 53, I'm 13.
Yeah. And how much do we see this in business context?
Everywhere.
In negotiations, everywhere. Where, yes.
We have a probably most people can relate to that person, somebody in the office of the United States, who really is, if you look at him, behaving very immature at times.
Yeah.
And it's not that the person I really would love to get to. I would love that the viewers that are on or rewatching this know it's not the entire person. It's personality parts.
Yes, that show up.
And we have, so we have personality parts that are hurt, that need attention. And we actually do have personality parts that became the predator.
Yes.
So if somebody was mean to you in your upbringing, somebody who was of, one of your primary caregivers, and they said, well, you're dumb, you're not good enough, you're dumb, you took it on at some point.
As the truth.
And then exactly. And then you actually become the predator for yourself.
Yes.
Because then you start hurting yourself and saying, see, you're dumb again. See, you did that wrong again. So it's like the constant nagging and dismissing of our abilities.
And mostly mostly this is an unconscious process, right? For most of us.
For most of us, it is.
Yes.
Catalina, I'm in self-development since 25 years. And 4 weeks ago, I had another session. Sometimes I still go and see my therapist.
Yes.
We discovered something, and I finally realized it and healed it. And here's the thing, and you know that, and many people in the personal development industry and who are interested in bettering themselves also realize that at times it comes back. And then we start being upset with ourselves, saying, see, you didn't handle it. So you become the predator again. But the truth is, it's so ingrained. It made such a big neural connection in your brain that you jump on it immediately. So when we talk, Catalina and I know each other from the Robbins world, and we talk about interrupting the pattern, the old pattern. This is exactly what we talk about. And we do that also in trauma therapy. We interrupt that brain connection, that link. Yes. We try to interrupt, but at the same time, I need to start a new one, a new synapses, a neural pathway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do you work with your clients? What is the best so what is the first step to take to liberate ourselves, to free ourselves from trauma?
So what I do is, and I haven't prepared it in English now, but if you want to, I can send you a link because I recorded it. It's a visualization of a safe place.
Yes.
And some of you might have that already. Some of you did that already. But it needs to be really, really safe. And it needs to be a place that you imagine. So it shouldn't be something that's real. I had patients that visualized a real place, and then they came to me in the next session and said, hey, somebody walked their dog in my safe space. So so it needs to be something that belongs only to you in your mind, and create a really, really safe space. And you can allow people in there if you want to, but I would encourage that not to do. And
Yes.
it has to have walls around or whatever makes you safe, because the traumatic experience is always, we feel unsafe.
Yes.
So that's why we need an internal safe space. And this is not woo-woo, this is scientifically proved trauma therapy. Because sometimes people say, I don't visualize, and that's bullshit. This is how powerful the brain is. We think shitty thoughts and see shitty pictures about our life and who we are and what that means. But sometimes we need to just do it on purpose and think great thoughts and see great pictures.
Yes.
And this is the only way. So this is the first step, to visualize and actually give ourselves a break sometimes when we see, okay, now I overacted again, and go there and take a breath. Take a break.
So go to your safe place.
Yes, go to your safe place is number one.
Yes.
Number two is discovering the hurt parts. And sometimes it's easy. With some people, it's very, very easy. I would always do it with somebody in a conversation, because we can then distance ourselves from ourselves. Or if you start writing. Most of the time, the major things we know anyways. So when you show a behavior that doesn't serve you, I then ask, how old are you now? Is this like whatever you say right now, is this the 53-year-old, or do you feel a younger energy? And they always say, always, even if they are brand new to psychotherapy or personal development, no, I feel like I'm 50. And to be clear, because, in the intro, Catalina, you said how to heal the inner child when, we bring the inner child to a business meeting. But it doesn't have to be only the inner child.
Inner child, absolutely. You're right.
No, it's inner younger us. It can be something. It can be something that happened 2 weeks ago, and I created a meaning. I gave it a meaning and created the limiting belief, and then this part shows up instead the now, because we change every single day.
Yes. Yes.
I'm not the same person today as I was yesterday. I'm not.
Yes. So we connect with the hurt, and then?
So we connect. I think it's not connecting. It's more we realize it. We see it. It's like, okay, this is the 15-year-old. And then I ask, so do you remember a situation when you were 15 where you felt the same way? And sometimes it comes immediately. There's a picture. Sometimes it can be that they remember, oh, this is how my mom was or my dad. So they actually, it's a learned behavior. It's a belief they learned. And then I ask, so in this situation, I ask them to describe the situation from being distant, like the 53-year-old is describing what the 13-year-old went through. So it's not associated. You're not in there. You're looking back.
Yes.
And then I asked, so what would the 14 or 13 or 15-year-old, what would she have needed or he have needed at that time?
Yeah.
And then they tell me what they would have needed. Most of the time it would have been just somebody who cares, somebody who gives me a hug, somebody who explains what happened. Be careful. The first answer we give is, I wish it would not have happened. Yes, I know. And it happened. It really did happen. Somebody said that. Somebody did that. Most of the time, the people we trusted most, they did that. And wasn't good. So they would have needed a hug or somebody who reassures or explains what happened. And then we ask them, you as an adult person, can you go back to that place, to that time, and rescue the little one out from the situation? Sometimes they can as an adult, and sometimes they can't. They don't want to. Then ask, is there somebody, a fairy or an angel or a superhero or somebody who go back and bring them into today? And that is the most important step in trauma therapy. When we are dealing, that's important, the differentiation as well, when we are dealing with the hurt part, not with the predator.
Yes.
The part that is hurting you still is a different technique.
Yeah.
But the reality is, if you can find the picture, the emotion, and the situation, you can do it by yourself. You can totally do it by yourself. And then go back, either send the superhero back to get the younger you out of the situation. And then you bring her into today. Today is July 1st, 2020. And then have a conversation with the younger you. And you will realize that the younger you, that part, did not realize that it's 2020.
Yes.
She thought it's still that time.
Yeah.
And then you have to show her around. Show her, I show her my office. I show her my friends.
Yeah.
I show her my life. Say, I am 53.
Yeah.
So all is good. All is well. We are safe.
Yeah.
And this is the most important part, really, to bring the person, the younger you, out of the situation, to rescue her.
Yeah.
So that a new neuro association can be formed, a new synapses can be made, so that eventually that part realizes, oh, hold on, there was a time gap that I missed because I was stored in the amygdala.
Yes.
And then the funny, the exciting, the best part comes. You bring this younger part to your safe space. You go to the safe space and let her have a safe space in that. For me, it is a cloud or it's a hut on on a mountain. And my younger me's actually have several rooms there. So they have a safe room that they needed at that time. And most of the time, I also have somebody there who gives them exactly what was needed back then.
Nice.
That explains the situation again when they're in the safe space. Explains, let's go back. Let's not go back like physically, but let's look back and see, what happened. And then explain. I had a client who had witnessed when she was 4 years old that her dad had an epileptic episode. She was so scared. And her grandmother, who was at home at the time, called the ambulance, and she took the 2 children and put them in a room away from the collapsed dad. So the kids did not know what happened to the dad.
Yeah.
To the day, client could not, she is a nurse, she couldn't do night shift because it was at night and she was so scared that she can't help because she didn't know what happened. He was flat on the floor, next thing he was gone. So she had no idea, and it was so shocking for her. And when we worked, she actually went back and said and explained to her younger self what happened.
Yeah, beautiful.
And it's like a miracle.
It's so beautiful. Yeah, you give a life back, through this kind of techniques. Beautiful.
And sometimes sometimes it doesn't have, when you did that often enough, because most of the time it's not a one-time thing, because you have had this since 20, 30, 40 years. you need to, when you feel, okay, this part is coming up again, it's again, go and bring her up there again, out of the old situation, all of the old picture, into the now, up to the safe space, over and over again. And when you experienced with it, you might realize it triggers sometimes still, and you feel the emotion. And instead of going, oh my gosh, I still didn't do it right, all you do, it's okay, Doris, it's okay. So you comfort your younger you in the moment.
Yeah.
Internally, or even external, I've seen my 70-year-old teacher, psychotherapist teacher, sitting in seminars, and all of a sudden she goes, it's okay, Lilo. Because she realized something was coming up again, an old part, and so she needed to calm her younger one.
So that's important distinction here, Doris. We are in progress. We are human being. We are not done with healing what it needs to be healed. So a 70-year-old expert in trauma therapy was doing this during the workshop. So that's important. So when does it stop? When we are dead, basically.
And not
for
even
most
there.
of us, at least for most of us. I don't know, maybe there, sorry?
No, not even there. It's not because we might have several lives, but there is, and many people know about that. And I haven't actually studied enough yet, but I will. There's a very interesting field that's called epigenetics.
Yes.
Which means we have, me being in Austria, this is of course of importance here, and being an Austrian, because I think most Austrians are still traumatized from the war, and we take a lot of guilt with us. And they have done a lot of studies with Jewish people, Jewish now young adults who have PTSD, post-traumatic
stress disorder,
syndrome, and they've never experienced any stress, but it's from their ancestors,
brought through the cell, cell memory,
through the cell memory. So this is not foo-foo, something in the air we can't see. No, this is hard scientific fact.
Yes.
So sometimes we are so hard on ourselves, especially the people that are in the personal development industry since many, many years. They think, and thank you for bringing it up, Catalina. We think we should be done. We should
be
and the
done.
other
Yes.
No, it's not.
It's not.
And because once we deal with one thing, another one that was unconscious is able to show up.
Yeah.
And then you deal with the next one. It's like when you're starting personal development. After 2 years, you go, wow, why did I even start? Because all the shit bubbles up. That's exactly how it is. Once you deal with one, the rest can bubble up, and you deal with it one by one.
So, Doris, what would you answer to those people? Well, yeah, why would I go on that path to get all the shit to the surface when it's better just not to think about it?
Because you want to live an authentic, happy, healthy, loving life, and not think a train, because this is how it feels at times. You feel you can't control the emotion. You're on the anger wagon. But you don't have to control once you got. It's so hard to describe, but I've seen, it gives me goosebumps, Catalina.
Me too.
I have seen in the last 2 weeks, I don't know why, but in the last 2 weeks, I've seen 3 of my clients, this epiphany, this moment of understanding, and where they turn to themselves and have this self. Now I'm missing the English word, like when they really being caring to themselves and
compassion, self-compassion,
compassion. So they all of a sudden, instead of being mean to themselves and think we have to change it, they go, oh my gosh, of course I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
And once they have the self-compassion, gives me goosebumps. It's like a domino effect. They can see how that belief, how that situation influenced everything.
Yes. And it's empowering them because you take your power back.
Yes. And
S-
you're
Yeah.
good the way you
Yeah.
are. You're,
Yeah. Yeah.
a small little tiny distinction that every one of us can do. I have it here. I even have it here in the office. I show you. I'm at my office today in Vienna. Put up pictures of you when you were little, when
Yes.
the hurt probably started. And I have pictures of me where I think I was not a very beautiful teenager, and I was judging myself. And I show you, every time I look at the pictures, it's little tiny ones, I go, I love you.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Because you are your own kind of you. And stop the judgment, but just put up a picture of yourself when you were in this hurt place, and send this little one your love. Every time you go by, you go, I love you.
Yes. And
And
with
that makes such a difference.
this is a small gesture, but it contributes so widely to your wholeness as a person. So,
Yes,
Doris, not everybody wants to go to see a psychotherapist or a coach
I
or
understand.
a professional that can help them create self-awareness because of different reasons. And
Yeah,
what would you advise? What would you advise? You just took us through the process, so people can listen to the recording.
yeah.
You just took us through the process, and there are distinct steps that we can take. But how would you advise that person to do journaling? What would be your advice?
I yes, if not everybody can journal either. I'm not a journaler. For example,
Yes.
I'm not big in journaling. Uh, I think most people need to get educated. So read on healing your inner child. Louise Hay did a lot of great stuff. Really, a lot of great stuff. Uh, there is a lot of material. I know, of course, in German, Luise Redemann, who is a German trauma specialist, she has some books. Even with self-hypnosis, there's some programs out there with just get into the visualization.
And
Once you can visualize yourself and do just that, what I said, if you do only that, much better than doing nothing.
yes.
Like I did for really a long time in the morning. I took, because one very severe incident in my childhood that created all the trauma, or many of my traumas, and I always visualized that situation, and I always went there and got her out, always.
And you
So
bring her to the
eventually,
safe place.
I bring her first, but first you bring her to the now. She needs to know it's again, remember the amygdala thing, it's still back then. So when somebody, as you can see, it was so severe that when this friend didn't want to show up for a call, I felt a part of me was like, ugh. But that was
Yes.
exactly the same emotion as back then when
Yes.
everybody turned their back. In my, it didn't really, but in my understanding back then.
Yes.
So I went immediately again. Yes, it's okay. I hear you. I see you. I
Yeah.
closed my eyes, got her out from there, and I rescued her. And I said, "Hey, we are in the car." So I closed my eyes, not driving, but it was in the car. So I took a 5 minutes break to get her out from the situation into the now. That's the most important step. And
Yes.
then to a safe place where she can grow up there. And when you go back, when you do this over time, you can see how she grows up.
Yes. Beautiful. Beautiful.
Read and listen to a lot of. There's so many programs out there on healing your inner child.
Yes. And that what do you
Start
think
from
about, yeah, what do you think, Doris, about somatic practices? There are some practices which help, not going into the details in terms of verbalizing, but just trauma release through certain movements. You can release trauma from the
absolutely,
body. What do you think of
absolutely.
those?
And amazing. I am a total fan of that. Trauma is always stuck in the body. Always. It's always stuck in the body. And you will actually, if you can do it either way, it will change something. If you only do body, there's also lots of classes out there. There's little tiny things you can do. Like you can, if you just do this with your feet when you feel like tense and anxious and some traumatic thought comes in or belief, if you just wiggle your feet like this, it releases already a lot.
Exactly.
Or you start tapping your body. It means it's not in one place. It goes throughout your entire body and
Yeah.
can be released.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you for bringing it up, because it's always stuck in the body.
Yeah.
And we psychotherapists enough with body movement, because we used to have a couch and a chair, but we don't actually do that. We do. I mean, most people do now. Another thing that is a technique also, where when people cannot remember, is EMDR. It's like a hypnotic state where you go in. And I had a friend who discovered something very horrific.
Yeah.
And as a result of bringing it out, dealing with it, she was 38 when she found out. She never was in a relationship, even, so she was super, like an amazing person, beautiful inside out. She discovered that.
Yeah.
She dealt with it. She took the consequences. She is 43 now, is happily married, has a big house and 2 children. And she was never in a relationship before.
Beautiful. But of course, so the beauty is, Doris, there are so many different techniques on this planet, and then that's good, because we are different, and that one technique might not work to people, and then find, but do something. That's the thing. Be aware and do something. And what happens to the people? What's the future for the people that deal with this? Tell us. What do you see with your clients? So you deal, of course, we are work in progress, but how's the future for people that deal with and do the trauma release?
I cannot even, it's freedom. I think if it's one word, it is freedom.
You just said
It's
about
a
that
sense
lady
of
that got married and so, but it's freedom, yes.
It's freedom. It doesn't have to be that something changes in the outside, because people in life are, but they always feel there's something missing or there's something not quite right. They are kind of haunted, and all of a sudden it's like the hook is gone. It's like sometimes we're hooked.
Yes.
And all of a sudden it's gone.
Beautiful.
That's what most people feel.
Thank you again, Doris, for bringing light to this important issue. This is so important, and I hope it will inspire lots of people to do something and to do even more release, and so they move lighter in life and in freedom.
And it's easy and it's fun. And as you said, Catalina, there's so many ways. If you do yoga, if you just do yoga and you don't deal with what happened, okay. And I want to end this. I want to say one thing that's very important, is actually facing something very traumatic. The number one thing, in order for them not to be left with a trauma, to deal with it in the now, is the more they can talk with people and feel safe with family and friends in the moment, the easier they are done with it. So that's all we need to do. If you have somebody, just be with them. Thank you, Catalina, for having me. Thank you.
Talk about this in a safe place. Thank you
Yes.
so much. Thank you
And
so
know
much.
each other. So
Yes. Doris, we're gonna let go of this beautiful experience together, but I take so much
thank
into
you.
my heart, into my mind and my body from our time together as we move forward to our life. I hope you come again to share from your vast experience and knowledge. And everybody have a wonderful day. Would let this go and we move forward to our lives. Thank you so much, Doris. See you next
Thank
time. Thank
you,
you.
Katarina.
Everybody
Thank
have a
you.
wonderful day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you